I like game ranks. I'll show you something here. I bought Donkey Kong Bananza already. I'm going to stream it. If you want to see me stream it, check out my Twitch channel, Kick channel, or Rumble. If you're already on Rumble, stay on Rumble. I'm going to stream this. But a lot of people wanted me to watch the game ranks, well, a review on Donkey Kong Bananza, what they thought on it, and I like game ranks. So I'm going to give my thoughts on the video, what I think of Bananza itself during the Let's Play I'm going to do, which will be after Wu Chang probably. But just stay tuned for that. But it's time. And yes, I still see the video.
Then we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. Today we're talking about Donkey Kong Bananza. Now, when you get a new Nintendo console, we're used to seeing a new Legend of Zelda, a new Mario. Usually they save their heavy hitters for the big tentpole hardware releases, but not usually Donkey Kong.
This is the new Mario for the Switch 2. Might as well be. And Donkey Kong, big name for Nintendo, I think. Still is.
This Big Apes games have been consistently high quality under the stewardship of course, Rare and Retro Studios, but DK has always been second banana to Nintendo's big money franchises. So getting a Donkey Kong game that's being developed internally, seemingly by the same guys who made Mario Odyssey, is just unusual and kind of exciting. This is a completely new direction for the character. The country name is gone. DK himself has this new redesign and kind of debuted in the Mario movie. He's teaming up with Pauline of all characters. It's a whole new era. We haven't seen such a radical shift in a Nintendo character since some of the experimental GameCube era stuff. And if anything, it is reassuring to see them willing to take a risk with one of their biggest guys, one of their biggest properties. But not all risks pay off. Sometimes you get a Metroid Prime and it's an all-time great game. Sometimes you get DK Barrel Blast, a game that was just so forgettable. I think everybody forgot about it. You barely even hear about it on the internet. So, which one is Bananza? Is this a modern classic or a disappointment? Well, I don't want to make any definitive statements, but Donkey Kong Bananza is way closer to Metroid Prime in terms of quality and like excitement and fun factor. It's just an exceptional platformer and really like a redefining of what a Donkey Kong game can be. This is definitely DK's Mario Odyssey moment. If you have any love in your heart for Donkey Kong, Nintendo games, or just platform action games in general, then you'll probably like this game at bare minimum. It does have a little bit of a slow start. It's honestly a little disorienting at first, but once you get past the initial hurdle and get into the main meat of the game, it starts to transform into one of the best and one of the more innovative platformers we've seen in a long time. It's fantastic.
I think any platformer that's in 3D is good. I love 3D platformers, and we don't get enough of them. We genuinely don't get enough of them. So I'm biased here because I was going to enjoy this no matter what. I have not played it yet, but I cannot wait to play it. It's just people in the stream want to see me suffer, so they want me to play Wu Chang first. I know it's you.
And just so you know, all this footage, of course, is captured running on a Nintendo Switch 2, and it is completely spoiler-free. This video has also been co-written by our buddy Eric behind the scenes. Now, like I said up front, it's not immediately the most engaging. It's going to take a minute to grab you just because the opening sections are just pretty mindless. They establish a lot of the basic mechanics, but there's a lot of focus on just kind of grinding and punching, and the stages you're in are kind of ugly, but that whole digging, punching, breaking thing is the main hook here. It's like a central mechanic to Bananza. DK can dig through almost any surface just by punching his way through. There are commands for punching forward, punching down, and punching up that can control your digging, and he can scale most walls as well, which really gives the game a pretty unprecedented level of freedom just to screw around for a Nintendo game. They took the concept of just letting players mess around in Odyssey and pushed it way further here, which ends up being exhilarating, but also kind of overwhelming at first. You're dropped into this gigantic mine area with endless amounts of stuff to punch through and dig up. And it's hard not to wonder, like, is this it? Is the whole game this gimmick? Is it just going to be a bunch of empty-looking sandboxes where you just punch and dig
Probably
everywhere?
Not.
Well, thankfully, the answer is no. Once you're
Okay.
through the prologue, the stages get a lot more interesting from like a design standpoint, scenario standpoint.
I assume it's going to be more like Donkey Kong 64, you know? Where there's a bunch of different mechanics or a bunch of different Kongs with a bunch of different abilities that you can do. But that's pretty much what this is. The zebra, the ostrich, the Kong. You know how many of these are just ripped from DK64? Like, not the mechanics itself, but the mechanics of the mechanics. Basically switching to different abilities to do different things. And that excites me because I like DK64.
Visually, everything. Now, the punching, digging thing remains this central part of the game, but it's integrated really well with like fun combat, some platforming, and puzzle solving. Now, rather than power moons like in Mario Odyssey or anything like that, there are dozens of these banana gem things all over the place. They're buried in secret parts of the level, and you get them for completing challenges and completing tasks in each level, and they're everywhere. So instead of just like being collectibles though, getting them actually gets you skill points, which can be used to upgrade DK's abilities, which makes them both less essential, but also like more rewarding to find, and especially if you're hooked into this good feedback loop. And the level design is pretty awesome, and again, combined with the ability to dig, it allows for some really unique and weird level mechanics. Like different types of materials are harder to break and make better weapons and throwables when you like rip them out of the ground, which is just, again, that's like another cool thing you could do. You can yank out like chunks of dirt or rock from the ground, swing it around as a weapon, throw it, or you can even ride it on the ground like a surfboard. Look, mechanically, there's a lot of depth here. And while you don't really have to engage with much of it at first, the game does get fairly challenging by the end, especially if you're focused on completing all the optional challenge rooms.
Donkey Kong has always been challenging, though. I mean, have you played Tropical Freeze or DK C2? That's what they're known for. Way harder than any Mario ever was.
That do actually get pretty ruthless in the later parts of the game. Levels are still generally linear with some more open sections to them, but one thing that Bananza really does differently compared to other platformers is the way you often weave through different like layers of a stage. It's rarely a straightforward progression from start to finish, but rather a lot of like back and forth where you drop down a layer, then you jump back up into a previous layer in a new location, and then drop down again, if that makes sense. Like, stages are really twisty and complex, but the 3D maps take navigating them and getting back on track pretty simple, as does the pretty charming little button where you can kind of see where you need to go, like how you would call the wind in Ghost of Tsushima or something like that. Here you hold down a button and DK whistles and makes music, and the music notes point in the direction. Now, the extremely malleable levels are cool. It's like Red Faction 1 or Red Faction Gorilla. It's cool. Like, it kind of also gives like this like freeform Tears of the Kingdom feeling at times. But the freedom is also always intermingled with some really good level design, which just, to us, really elevated both aspects. So the gameplay is great, but like we said, there are some growing pains here. It can be kind of disorienting at first, and at times, like, the amount of movement options kind of buck up against each other, especially if you've really made a mess of the environment. Sometimes DK struggles to hold onto a wall, or his movement gets kind of reversed when switched between climbing surfaces. On some of the more tricky sections, this can be a problem, but usually there's a more straightforward option. Also, the camera is not perfect. I think since the dawn of time, third-person video games have always struggled with camera issues, and with all the digging and stuff, there are some clever ideas here and just kind of ways to see through the environment where it does help, but every so often you still are going to struggle with the camera or get it stuck somewhere or get hung up, or suddenly it spins around and you're looking up Donkey Kong's ass. Personally, for the most part, I did get used to it, but I know some people have stronger issues with this stuff, so just keep that in mind. Ultimately, still think the gameplay is great, and one extremely useful ability that does solve a lot of problems with the destructible terrain here is the slam button, which makes DK slap the ground to reveal secrets. It draws any loose gold to him, which is helpful, but we really like that it also just smooths out any nearby surfaces, so it's like a little bit less messy to traverse. It's subtle, but it's smart. It's a small thing, but it shows that the people who made this really get what they're doing. This is a game that could feel like a mess to play. And while there is a little bit of awkwardness here and there, like I said, with the camera and stuff and getting stuck in certain places, the vast majority of the time, it just works, even in situations where it feels like there would be more issues. So you might be saying the game is good, but what about the story? It's a fever dream, even more than your average Nintendo game. So DK is a miner now? Okay. The island gets hit by a giant meteor that sends the entire city underground, and then he meets a talking rock who turns out to be another character, and then somehow DK has to travel to the center of the Earth? Sure. Okay, cool. Yes, in all these levels with clear blue skies, you're actually underground somehow. So it's absurd, even for one of these games. The weirdness feels more like something out of almost abstract, like Splatoon, more than DK. But hey, at least they throw in some cool Donkey Kong Country callbacks. And we're not just talking about the music, which kind of feels like Mario Odyssey's bombastic themes crossed with David Wise's like moodiest country tracks. The soundtrack here is just absolutely fantastic. And there's a couple of cool things they do that we're not going to spoil. And if there is another issue with the game, it is the frame rate. For the most part, it's solid, but when things get especially chaotic, you can count the frames sometimes. When a whole lot of explosions are going off at once and hundreds of gold nuggets go flying and the destruction is churning, the game is going to chug for a bit. It's not unbearable, but it is noticeable. If you played a lot of ports and games on Nintendo Switch, you're used to rough frame rates, but here, with a new Nintendo Switch, I think people might expect more. The game never felt like sluggish or slow.
For those who don't know, the game runs at 60 FPS, and it cuts, if there's any frame drop, it will go to 30 FPS, and it will stay there, and that's why it's noticeable. And it doesn't really go below 30, but the difference between 60 and 30 is such a noticeable decrease that people can't handle it. Like, you will feel if you were playing at 60 to 30. They should have put like a VRR where it was 40. It would just like, or hover between like 48 and 60.
The rest of the time, it's only really a problem when a ton of things are happening at once. But you will notice it, and it is a little disappointing to see Nintendo's second major release on Nintendo Switch 2 struggle in the frame rate department. I get it's probably a pretty intensive game with all the breakability, the destructibility, the physics, and all that stuff, but yeah, it's worth pointing out. That's really the only major complaint. That's the sticking point here. That and the kind of slow start that we mentioned, and the rare camera and control issues. I
also blame them not using DLSS. They use FSR. If they use DLSS, they could run the game at like 540p and upscale it.
We think Donkey Kong Bonanza is stellar from top to bottom. And ultimately, as weird and crazy as it is, as much of a fever dream it is, I do think it has a lot of charm. It has a lot of like confidence and energy to it, from like the presentation, the cutscenes, how they're directed, and some charming, quirky writing here and there that I just really, really liked. We love all the little Odyssey-esque townsfolk that you meet along your journey, the charming little costumes you can buy. The whole digging thing was, again, it seemed a little off-putting at first with just how grindy it is, but after spending some time with the game, you really end up loving it as a mechanic. It's really innovative and an unexpected thing to see. You know, Nintendo games can be often so locked down and rigid and controlled, like they want you to do what they want you to do. Here, they let you go wild. They let their hair down a little more, allowing more experimentation and stuff, and just let players do fun things in these more systematic environments. You can find bananas from the wrong direction. You can complete challenges in unintentional ways. And the game doesn't just allow it, it practically encourages it. It just keeps going.
It's just like the sort of open zone areas from Mario Odyssey, just more of that. Will sign me up. And the rest of America, that's what everyone wants. And they delivered. Now release it for not $70, please.
With the flow. I think ultimately what makes us appreciate Bonanza so much is how it has all these exploitable mechanics, but it's ultimately built around carefully designed and curated levels still that push and pull between freeform entertainment and then deliberate and polished game design. It really could have caused a lot of friction, but here it just works. They took a big swing with Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I think they hit a home run with it. And best of all, they're not charging $80 for the privilege of playing it. It's still $70, a very high price that will probably never go on sale, which isn't great. It's not this massive giant game like a Zelda to justify that. But either way, it is such a fun game that you should consider it at some point. But that's it before you buy. You know how this goes by now. We give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. And now we want to hear yours down in the comments.
Yeah, for me, obviously, I already had it. Definitely worth it to me. I'm going to stream it. I don't, guys, like, Twitch gives me maybe $50 a month. I will not be making my money back from playing it. But, it doesn't really matter. This is one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre of games ever. Of course I'm going to play this. But I know people want my thoughts, and I think it'll be good. I think we'll play it, we'll enjoy it, and I'll catch you for the stream when I do stream it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all tomorrow.